We are in an orchard, by which I remember was written my first poem. When boats go to the sea, they never come back. And it was in 1940, which is 60 years ago. And I was going back from my school to my home, and when all of a sudden I stopped in the middle of the orchard, between the trees, in the silence, and a few lines of a poem came to my mind. The lines were, יהודים באין מולדת, כבר ביקרו הרבה נופים, דוממה ספינה חיוורת בגלים העייפים.
At the time Natan wrote his first poem, World War II had just ended and Palestine was under British rule. The poem tells about how, when ships of starving Holocaust survivors found their way to the shores of the, quote, promised land, the British refused to allow them to land. Natan was part of the Jewish underground that would smuggle the refugees to shore, but they were not always successful, and 2 shiploads of refugees were fated to die at sea.
All of us were going with a feeling of guilt that we are guilty. That Jews were refugees who succeeded to survive from Hitler and came all over the Mediterranean. To their homeland, they were sent back to death. And this was the moment, I think, when the poet in myself was born. It means to watch out and to live the most terrible things in life, but to relate to them in an aesthetic way. To find some beauty even in the cruelest and most horrible thing. We were in a permanent fight to survive, either against Palestinians or against the Arab states around us, Egyptians, Jordanians, Syrians. And in my youth, to be a good writer was almost a shame, you know, because it was a sentimental thing. But to be a good sniper gave you, you know, all the credits in the world. And we found that this is the most important thing, to know how to shoot and how to catch the target. So I had to live a double life, you know, a life of somebody who has to be aware and ready for every moment to jump and to fight, and at the same time to be a poet and an educator and to teach people to love beauty and to love the feelings of human being and to be a humanist. Personally, I never hated Arabs, you know, never. Even after the death of my son as a soldier, I didn't have some hatred. This was beyond hatred. He wasn't killed by somebody personally. This was a big machine, the machine of the war, where the single human being is nothing. We say sometimes that in Israel you can die many times, more than once, but to live you can live only once. And this is the life that we have, and it is painful. Without this observation as a poet on life, I don't think that I could stand it even one day. I mean, to lose your son is much more than to lose yourself. I live with it, you know, I live with it, and when I meet people and I read poetry, and I always bring him to this conversation by saying something about him, by reading the poems which were dedicated to him, and I have many of them. And in this very painful way, I feel myself closer to him. Much closer than without the pain. The pains I found give me the opportunity to touch him, I discovered a Palestinian man who lost his son by Israeli soldiers who came to Ramallah to fight against groups of stone throwers, or children or students or whatever they were. And they ran after a group of students, and they killed his son, which was 15 or 16 years old. I didn't know that it happened to him, but he told me in this meeting. But he knew that my son was killed in the war also. He knew before, but I didn't know. But in the moment that we knew it, I knew it, we started to speak about a father to a father. And then I went with him to the graveyard to stay near the stone of his, the monument of his son. And after we left it, I invited him to come to me, to the graveyard where my son is buried, my son Lior. That means that we have the possibility to meet each other in different levels and different aspects, endless.